I'm Will Jones. Thanks for staying tuned here on Local 4 Live. We're back with a live look over Detroit, and the new school year for nearly 50,000 DPSCD students are back in the classroom. We had a chance to speak with the superintendent here on Local 4 Live last week with the focus on the budget fight, and our Rhonda Walker joins us now. And Rhonda, you also spoke to him on how he's continuing to reshape the district.
Yeah, and we did cover the budget fight in Lansing, and he had some I'll call it maybe some choice words for how he feels about that process, still ongoing. So I'm going to share more about that. But he also, I had a chance to talk with Dr. Vitti and talk with him about the state of the district. He's now in his 8th year leading Detroit Public Schools Community District. And we talked about achievements that he hopes to build upon in this new school year, also the challenges that lie ahead, and results from a poll that we did. You'll remember during the mayoral debate, we did a poll among Detroit voters, and we asked many questions, but among those questions is whether or not the city of Detroit residents believe that the city is better, worse, or the same than it was 10 years ago. And then we also asked that question about DPSCD. Do you think that the Detroit public school system is better, worse, or the same? Residents said the city of Detroit, 70% of them said the city of Detroit is better, while 50% of them said that they believe that DPSCD is worse.
Not good.
No. So Dr. Vitti, he shared how he felt about the poll when he initially heard it, and also wants to share with voters some things that they probably don't know about, and also some of the city residents that may not realize the strides that DPS is making, and that's part of our conversation.
When I first read the poll, when I first heard about the poll, it was a challenge. I was frustrated to say, wait a minute, how is Detroit not seeing the improvement? The reality is we have gotten better. We're not just telling our story. When you look at our employee surveying, when you look at our parent surveying and our student surveying, they're all moving in a higher direction.
Urban school education is different from suburban school education. How is it different?
Well, one, concentration of poverty, and that leads to more challenges that children face around trauma, around exposure to violence, around homelessness, around home insecurity, food insecurity. If you don't have your basic needs met, it's hard for you to reach your potential. So when children
But the expectation is that these kids still have to meet the same potential as the other kids.
And that's why the public school system is so important. Every child is talented, regardless of socioeconomic background. But it's the school system that gives everyone a chance. And this is why equal funding, equitable funding, and continuing to make this district better. And the other issue is the history of race. We can't ignore it. You know, structural racism still exists in this country, and it creates a disadvantage for our children. It's not an excuse, it's a reality.
But then it means you're teaching differently. It's not just academics, it's also this wraparound service.
Yeah, I think probably our best example of that is our health hubs.
9 health clinics within the schools, free for any student and their family members.
Last year, we served over 17,000 individuals throughout the city by providing them free access to primary medical care, dental screening, mental health support, which is significant, vision screenings and free eyeglasses, and our family resource centers, where we provide basic toiletries, help with eviction, maybe immigration, legal support.
And having those basic needs met means that those kids will be in the classroom. Sometimes the absenteeism is a consequence of things that are going on at home.
Absolutely.
All funded through philanthropic donations.
We dropped chronic absenteeism by 6 percentage points, improved average daily attendance.
Innovative improvement getting national attention among urban education experts.
It means a lot, having grown up in Metro Detroit, Detroit being a big part of my identity. It means something special to be able to do this job now, whether you look at grad rates, literacy rates, math rates, you know, number of kids going to college, number of kids having access to college and career-ready classes. We're back to running a system the way it should have been run.
Including boosting teacher salaries to retain and align with the suburbs.
When I started, we had over 400 teacher vacancies. Our beginning teachers were at 38,000 when I started. They're now at 55,000. You know, our most veteran teachers were at 68,000. They're now in the mid-90s.
Disparities still remain in state funding.
It can be anywhere from $60 million to $100 million a year. Our per pupil is $9,600, which is about the minimum. Those districts are in $11,000 per student. And that's based on a Michigan formula that's outdated, that disadvantages our kids. And the greatest area of disadvantage is funding teacher salaries and facilities.
Like city school buildings versus suburban.
You see that old building that hasn't been repaired, and you go through, other parts of this outside of the city, and you see brand new football fields and these really nice buildings. It's because of the inequitable way states, Michigan fund schools.
So is that the answer then? If you can't change what's the formula,
Yeah.
Is it finding the funding somewhere else?
We shouldn't have to rely on philanthropy to get this right. This is 2025. All of our kids.
All right, Rhonda, let's talk about what he had to say about the state budget.
Okay, so as it relates to the state budget, he really echoed what other superintendents are saying. Basically, he's like, this is unimaginable, and that legislators need to do their job. He said he supports Governor Whitmer, but he also believes that she needs to intervene. And he said if the schools didn't complete their budget by June 1st, he said a whole army would be coming down on them. There'd be auditors coming in trying to get rid of board members. And he just says there's no accountability and that it just shouldn't be happening. And I know there's going to be a meeting taking place with Governor Whitmer that maybe might make a change with that. But these superintendents are frustrated. And he said, for DPS, because we're talking about different services and programs for the schools. He said for DPS, they have reserves. Believe it or not, they have reserves. They're prepared. They'll be able to continue services for these families. He said, but there are a lot of other districts, smaller districts especially, that could see cuts in programs. They may have to lay off teachers. They may see cuts in food programs, which he talked a lot about. So getting this done by that October 1st deadline is necessary. But also, the longer you wait, the more uncertainty that builds. And how does that affect the teachers and staff members and even families that are relying on certain programs that are in limbo potentially?
We'll be keeping a watch on Lansing to see if anything gets done, if there's any movement. There hasn't been a lot.
Yeah, I did want to share something else because we talked about absenteeism and a lot of changes that they've been making with DPSCD. But the other area is academic performance and where are they academically as opposed to the state. And I think there's a study that's going to be coming out. Dr. Vitti alluded to it, but he wasn't able to share it yet. It's embargoed. That's going to show some academic improvement with Detroit Public Schools students, getting them closer to the state average as opposed to below, which is, of course, another benchmark is how well are the students doing academically. But he did want me to point out that Cass Technical High School and Renaissance, just a couple of schools in the district, are above the state average. So it is happening.
And you mentioned this in your story that in Detroit, there are different challenges than suburban districts in terms of family structure, jobs, homelessness that he has to deal with.
And it's remarkable that a school district has figured out a way to bridge some of those barriers just so that kids can show up at school and without some of the challenges that their families may be facing. They're well aware of that. They have like the United Way and some other nonprofit organizations that are providing, I think you mentioned the Balmer Group as well, that are providing millions of dollars in funding so that they can have these health hubs. They literally have health centers in schools that students and their families can come to for basic medical health care. You heard him mention vision, mental health. I mean, legal support, imagine the value of that families that are low income would never have access to or struggle to have access to. That could ultimately lead to them not being able to be in the classroom, So they're bridging that gap and they're doing that wraparound service because they know it's necessary in order for just the kids to be able to be kids and show up at school. And when you level that playing field, we know that kids in urban communities can succeed just as well as kids in suburban communities that may not have those challenges. You just have to bridge the gap of the challenges and make sure that kids at least have a level playing field to compete.
Was there anything in the conversation you had with the superintendent that surprised you?
I wouldn't say surprise me. I mean, I do spend a lot of time in the community. I work with a lot of Detroit Public Schools kids. I do a lot of mentoring with my own foundation, the Rhonda Walker Foundation. So I wouldn't say I was surprised, but I said to him, why do you think that City of Detroit residents don't know that these significant improvements have been made in the district? And that's what he was saying. He's like, you know what? I'm grinding. I always have my head down. I'm always working. And I realize, and I need to also make this aware to my principals, that we have to shout out and tell more about the successes and the progress that we're making. So whenever we hear DPSCD, it isn't always something that's going wrong or something that needs to be fixed, but what are some of the things that are happening that are good in the district? So if they tell us the stories, we'll tell them, right?
Yeah, they have to work with us. So we'd be happy to highlight some positive things going on.
Exactly.
Well, I appreciate your time.
Thank
Great
you, Will.
conversation.